Agreement, which was not written down in ink, could be overlooked, with some people suggesting that there is a deliberate plan to frustrate the opposition from reaching out to the rural areas where the NRM seems to enjoy quite a bit of support. These fears are based on the poor political culture in this country, where dialogue is considered as meaningless and where agreements are often settled at the bar of the gun. The unity by the opposition on the electoral reform agenda has, according to some pundits, brought hope that for once the opposition could present a strong force against the NRM. But some analysts and researchers are quick to point out that this unity in the different parties and the scramble for cash could eventually destroy this alliance, as happened in 2011. So tonight we look at the relationship between the opposition and the ruling party and how this impacts on the democratization and development agenda. We'll also look at the significance of a united opposition ahead of the 2016 planned elections and what inroads they can make in the perceived NRM strongholds. Our guests tonight: Dr. Patrick Wakida, Executive Director of Research World International, publishers of opinion polls and other research work. You're most welcome, Dr. Wakida.
Thank you very much.
We also are joined by Honorable Mathias Nsubuga, Secretary General of the Democratic Party, also Chairman of the Inter-Party Political Dialogue, which brings together all these parties represented in Parliament. You're most welcome, Honorable Nsubuga.
Good evening, listeners.
We're also joined by another Honorable Stephen MukitaleBirahwa, Bulisa County MP from the NRM Party. You're most welcome, Honorable Birahwa.
Thank you so much, Edmund. Nice being here.
Honorable Mathias Nsubuga, what was the essence of your meeting with the police, two generals on one side?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to correct the title you have just given me as chairman of IPOD. I am the past chairman of IPOD because our leadership or chairmanship rotates among the 6 political parties in the parliament. So I've just handed over now to FDC, and the FDC under the chairmanship of Augustine Rizindana, the current chair. However, I want to thank you and thank the management for giving us this opportunity to talk to our listeners. First and foremost, we had that meeting yesterday. Indeed, even before that, in Parliament, we had just hosted the IGP, General Kare Kaihura. He came to the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs, where he was asked as to why the police is no longer the non-partisan police which we used to know. This is, I would rather call it NRM police, because these are people now who are only going on directives of NRM. They do anything which is NRM. They have not only stopped there, they have gone to an extent of even managing the affairs of the political party, because the recent youths who were arrested, the NRM youths, were arrested by the police, and I think it is the police which complained, and the police are the ones who took these youths to courts. When we asked the IGP, he said that they depended on intelligence. There was no particular person that came, and even when you read the charge sheet, which I have come with here, they are saying that these people were interfering, bribing delegates who are coming to oppose the resolutions of Chankwanzi. So you can see how the police now is fully engaged in political party matters. So we as opposition, we met these people yesterday, but of course, as we've heard, our rallies were dispersed in Mbale, they were dispersed in Soroti, they were dispersed in Kasese, and the police were just giving flimsy excuses. The president of FDC, General Muntu, was thrown out of a studio like we are here from a radio station. So the relationship between the opposition and the ruling party, I will say, is very sour. For one reason, and this is what a point I would like my colleagues and also the listeners. The moment we fused politics with militarism, that is fusing the two, now the political arm,
yes,
and the military arm, they were fused together. That is why you see now you have a general, an army, General Kare Kaihura is army, General Ronda is army, is the Minister of Internal Affairs. So there is no separation between the military and the politics. We are ordinary politicians. But ordinary civilian contesting with a 5-star general, then you can never have a level ground for politics. You only have militarism. Everything that has been militarized. So the relationship between opposition, because opposition is entirely civilian. Now you are dealing with the...
You also have some generals.
Which no, I mean they have left.
They didn't live with their guns.
No, they didn't live with their guns.
They left them behind.
They left them behind. So these are people who have served in the army, but they have retired. So we are not competing with the on equal terms. So our relationship, as I can see, this is not the first time. I don't think. First of all, until NRM accepts that they decided to go civilian or to go for multi-party dispensation, whereby political parties must compete for power at a level ground, we can never achieve this. We have tried. Under my chairmanship, we went to Ghana.
Yes.
NRM was also represented. We benchmarked with Ghana, and we saw how Ghana, which was a revolutionary government under Rawlings, exited from the militarism to a purely democratic system. And now in Ghana is a model. They asked these people, we had an agenda with them, but they have failed to exit from militarism to democracy. So this is the problem. Even these electoral reforms we are talking about, until we get assurances. Look, in 1996, President Museveni said he was leaving the army, and in fact, when you come to Parliament,
yes,
there is a picture of President Museveni changing from army attire, putting on a kanzu and a coat. But this time, whenever he has Chankwanzi, this is a 5-star general. He mocks these members of parliament, including Maimuko here, Honorable Mukitale.
They also get uniforms.
They get uniforms, but who are private. You cannot oppose a 5-star general when you are in a private uniform. What I mean, and you know what the language means in the army. Amuri ni amuri. When an order comes from top, from a general, you cannot oppose that. That's why these resolutions, Chankwanzi resolutions, whoever tries to oppose them, either you are thrown out of the party, or you are taken it. Like these young men have been soliciting signatures. They are now in Ruzira. They were only given a bond yesterday.
Honorable Birahwa, why are there such disagreements in our country's politics? Have we not seen enough violence?
First of all, as an advocate of nation building, in 2005, I was uncomfortable when the opposition, in the quest for pluralism, did not recognize that we required a transitional period to move from the movement system, which was a revolution, to a multi-party dispensation. Of course, the other one was I have my discomfort as an individual with the winner takes all system. So because we switched from the movement to multi-party, without a national dialogue, without a national consensus, without a minimum program, on agreeing on the very issues which are now people are disagreeing on, we end up where we are. But where we are is a constitutional arrangement, is what we chose to go for. But in the Constitution and the Political Organization Act of 2005, some remedies, some conflict resolutions were proposed to the effect that the inter-party dialogue that the iPod is talking about, there would be that cooperation. Unfortunately, what seems to be happening is that we, the political class, are dragging the non-partisan policemen in doing our work. That's what I've said, and I'm saying it here for the first time. I don't think it's the business of Afandikali Kaihura and his team to really be doing the dialogue. This dialogue should be between the parties. And I would like a structured dialogue, because, first of all, as an economist, all the good intentions we have to transform this country, the Vision 2040, will be in vain if this country doesn't build minimum political consensus, if the stability is in question. And therefore, for me, I would like to take it. Of course, unfortunately, again, opposition have been saying this before. Also, rushed to push for the political, the electoral commission and electoral law reforms, which again I think is also expecting too much. Because for me,
if you want a fair election,
as far as I know,
have some reforms.
The elections start with the level of organization of political parties themselves, the environment that they are in, the role of the security organs and the military in our part of the world, and therefore the electoral commission is only going to be a mirror of what actually is upstream. So I would not want to spend a lot. Actually, I don't belong to that flogging the dead horse, if you want, you may call it. I cannot waste a lot of time discussing so much about electoral reforms if we cannot discuss about the political space. So for me, from the onset, before even the recent NGOs, civil society came about with the proposal, I have been from 2005. I have been for a national dialogue, a national conference, moreover, with a roadmap, with a transition, with a constitutional amendments. We have a lot of constitutional amendments. If we don't do them, right now you want to discuss about political parties and how they relate with government. But the cultural system would want to know how much more can they do for development, because they are trustees. We would want to review and see the role of the military, which we are talking about.
Yes.
We would want to see, should a member of parliament be a minister, and therefore you have a majority in cabinet, and therefore they take the day with 70 ministers in parliament. So there are serious issues we have to engage, and if we don't engage in them, for me, it may be failing to transit. In the history of this country, that we militarized our politics, and nobody is engaging a debate enough to say, do we want to be a purely civilian government? Do we want the security, a quasi-military arrangement? If we don't ask those hard questions, we may not have a good system for our future. But what I want to say, what is happening right now is what was put in the constitution, is what is in the law. But we need to do everything possible to make sure that we coexist, because we chose to go multi-party, and they must be given space.
Dr. Wakida, you are a researcher. What is the perception of the common man on Uganda's politics today?
You see, Edmund, if you are to understand what's happening, the fight between the opposition and the NRM government, you must have to first of all understand where is the constituents of the other. The constituents of NRM is up country. It's within the population, the peasants.
Go on.
Would NRM allow the opposition to go and take that constituency? That's the first thing. The other one, which is very significant, is whether the NRM at this point still believes it's popular or not. They are not sure.
Oh, they are not sure, but they keep winning elections.
They are not sure. As of now, I'll tell you as a researcher that Mr. Museveni is a president with a percentage not more than 8%.
How can you say things? You're talking like General Tinyafuza.
I want to tell you this.
Talk like a grown-up man.
To me.
He won an election.
The turn-up for elections in the previous election was 58%. Mr. Museveni got 67%. In percentage terms of people who gave him a mandate.
It's a small number.
About 7%. That's very important. So at this point you are in a situation where you are not sure where you are. But I want to really
so you're saying you got only 38% of the vote as a researcher?
Yes.
Go on.
It's calculatable. You can put that in mathematical term and get that. Trust in institution of government such as the police and the electoral commission is at the core of elections.
Yes.
These are the two institutions in the constitution that are mandated to conduct elections.
Yes.
Not the army.
Yes.
Here you are. This opposition are saying that the police is a partisan. They are saying the electoral commission is a partisan. And you can see how angry they are. And yet, they want to participate in an election. That's a question I've asked some politicians.
What do they say?
If you feel like that, which is true, would you go ahead and therefore participate in that election? If you don't participate, what's the implication? And that takes me to Mr. Mukitale's point of view, that this country, Mr. Museveni, has been a great man. Whatever the weaknesses, he has managed to create stability
for 28 years.
For about 28 years.
Almost 30.
That chap, the president came into office when I myself was there about 11 years. There were things that I saw when I was young. Now I'm a grown-up man.
Now even a doctor.
You even have a beard.
I'm a grown-up man. But that has been the hallmark of his leadership. Those who praise Mr. Museveni in the village do not say he created wealth in their house. They say he created security. For those who are investing in this country are saying you created stability, and therefore we are able to come and establish banks and all these kind of institutions.
Yes.
And that is economic stability.
Right.
It's the basis of that economic stability.
The foundation.
Now,
but that one is also debatable.
You'll talk about it.
With all of those achievements, as a leader,
yes,
you reach a point and say, I have created this. What kind of legacy do I want to leave?
You could do another 20 years.
And that is where the problem is. Because a frustrated population is very dangerous. In 2006, 2005, there were the menzas.
Yes.
I was able to listen to you guys hosting various people. People were able to talk up their minds. Today, I and you and Mr. Museveni perhaps doesn't know what's happening outside there. Now, we as a researcher, we don't speculate.
Yes.
And I was telling you that for us, what we do is we always find out what happens. The first thing that the government will have to do is to allow the opposition lose when they know they have lost genuinely. And that is if they have been allowed to go to the population, convince them, and then the population say, we don't want you. Now, in the past, people used to say the opposition is fragmented.
Yes.
And I want to tell you that for people who did not vote in the previous election, if you ask them why, they thought the population was fragmented. About 17%. 21% in general felt they did not have an agenda.
Yes.
They were disunited. Now, if today, 1.5 or 2 years to elections, they are definitely uniting, it's a good thing.
Oh.
It's a good thing.
You think they can take it?
One, it will force the NRM, even if they won, NRM will come with a genuine program that will support the population. If NRM doesn't work hard and they take away the power, then they will know it was because there was a free and fair platform.
Yes.
Mr. Museveni, I remember in, I think 1987, I was very little. I was reading this in the archives. He says he could not look on when the Constitution was being violated. That is what he said.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Today. If you are very intelligent enough to look into that constitution, you will see 1,000 times when the very constitution is being violated.
Oh, you're using very strong words. Honorable Mathias Nsubuga, you can't say the president is violating this.
Not him. Not him.
Who is violating it then?
The institutions of government are violating the constitution.
Which ones? Name only 3.
If the police can stop people from assembling, I don't know whether it's just...
No, let me give you an example. Just an example, Doctor. Yesterday, General Kari Kaihura was before the Committee of Parliament, as I told you.
Yes.
he was asked whether Dr. Kizza Besigye was under arrest because his house his compound is surrounded.
It looks like State House, that place.
Do you know what he said? He said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware that his house is surrounded by police. And this is the IGP who is supposed to know the deployment of his forces. Now, Dr. Besigye, his rights as a human being, as a citizen of the country, is violated.
But why does he want to walk when he has a vehicle? They should surround him.
Well, he can walk, he can drive, he can do anything. It is his right. Yes.
Well, but why are people going up country? You want electoral reform? Stay in Kampala, go to parliament. Those are the people. Why do you go to the village?
You see, in 1986, when NRM came, the very first person who asked, the late Andrew Kayira was appointed a minister, and he asked the president, and he said, before I swear in, I want to know, for how long is NRM going to be in power?
He said 4 years.
I said 4 years, and legal notice number 1 of 1986 gave the movement 4 years. Okay? Now, the political parties, we were not allowed to go beyond our headquarters.
You could only fly a flag.
We could only fly a flag, and they said, don't go to the rural areas, remain at the headquarters. Now, today, when we fight for space to the rural areas, in fact, the rural areas, these radios, these TVs, people know what is right. The only problem we have is militarization.
What do you mean?
Yes. The rural people are aware. Today we are going for another by-election in Luwero. It was unbelievable, it was inconceivable, it was unthinkable that the opposition could win in Luwero.
The cradle of the NRM struggle.
And indeed, we did. And we are going back for another by-election.
And you're also putting one candidate.
Yes, we are putting one candidate as opposition, and we shall definitely win that. So
that's the lady who made
population.
That's the lady who gave the president a birthday cake at some stage.
Yes, she did, because she was aware of his birthday. However, the rural population, I don't want people to think that the rural population is no longer aware of what is happening. They are aware only that they have the military, they have the police which are prevailing them over them, and they are refusing the opposition like ourselves to allow us to go and talk to these people.
But you want to cause chaos, even on the radio
station. It is not causing chaos. You know, you cannot go for multi-party dispensation, multi-partyism,
yes,
and then say that one group will, for example.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll be back so you can pick it from there. This is Spectrum, to stay with us.
Wangula cash from Orange and become a millionaire. 100 million shillings is up for grabs. It's not Wolokoso. To play, simply SMS the word WIN to 156, answer simple questions and the highest points and win. Win 300,000 shillings daily. Win 750,000 shillings weekly. Win 2.5 million shillings monthly. Get the highest points at the end of the promotion and win a grand prize of 25 million shillings. And you could buy a plot of land and build a house. This is your chance to become a millionaire. Each SMS costs 800 shillings. Wangula Cash Promotions ends in June 2014. For more information, visit www.orange.ug/Wangula. Terms and conditions apply. Fun changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
Excuse me, what is this 300 shillings on my bill for?
That is for the tinted candles, madam.
And this 100 shillings?
That is for the air conditioning.
And this 200 shillings?
For the blue walls, ma'am.
I can't believe this!
Why pay for what you don't use or ask for? That's why we at Standard Chartered are introducing the Easy Go account, the first current account of its kind that gives you complete control of your banking charges. For more details, visit a Standard Chartered branch or call 0414-340077.
Would you like to leave me a tip, please?
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. Can the NRM and the opposition agree a minimum agenda for free and fair elections? What threat would a united opposition pose to the NRM in 2016? Our guests tonight, Honorable Nsubuga, Bulisa County MP from the NRM party, Dr. Patrick Wakida, Executive Director, Research World International. They publish opinion polls and many other research works. Honorable Mathias Nsubuga, Secretary General of the Democratic Party, also past Chairman of the Inter-Party Political Dialogue, which brings together all these political parties that you see in Parliament. You will be able to call in later. So that's top of them. Yes,
now the point, can NRM and the opposition agree on a minimum agenda?
Yes.
Personally, I think it is not possible for one reason. Why?
Why are you skeptical?
This year, the president was in my constituency in Bukoto South. And I stood up and told the president and said, Mr. President, I think we need, then I was also the chairman of IPOD.
Yes.
I said, we need dialogue. What is happening in Kampala with the Lord Mayor cannot be dissolved by just tear gas and whatever. And the president said, yes, I'm ready for dialogue. I even put it in writing. I wrote to him when I came back. I delivered the letter in his office, seeking for dialogue. If you can fail to dialogue on an issue like a Lord Mayor of Kampala, do you think on a national level, which is even going to change your position as the president, you can agree? This is where we have a problem.
Honorable Birahwa, is there a chance, or is it polarized completely?
You know, it's
no opportunity.
One thing I know for sure, that citizens of this country, the other stakeholders of this country, extra political parties, extra NRM, extra DP, extra FDC, the taxpayers, the business community, the farmers of this country, they want political stability. They want a non-partisan police which will outlive IGP Kaihura and my government of NRM myself. But because we, the political leaders, have not by choice decided to dialogue, the police, which is in charge of law and order, has no choice but to come in. But that's not the ideal. They shouldn't be doing that, but because the political actors have not done their part, they end up doing the fire brigading, which is keeping law and order. I also want to engage a bit Dr. Wakida, that whereas it's true that the voter turn-up was
just a bit low,
under 50%. Low.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to go into different factors which make people. Some other, it's because they have lost hope. They don't think they can win. That would also be another factor. In an American politics, there are those undecided voters. It takes the behavior, the political behavior of the politics, dynamics of the last, for them to decide whether to vote or not. But largely, if an election was to be held today, President Museveni could garner even 80%
of what?
Of the votes. Why am I saying that? The reason is because
Honorable Nsubuga seems to agree.
The reason is
no, I can't agree with that.
The reason is because
the doctor who is making research let's go by figure.
Yes.
He has just said even the recent elections he won by 37%.
38 actually.
38%.
No, but in statistics, 37 of the turnout of those who voted in terms of the population, yes, the voters' age.
Yes.
But what did the opposition get? Because the opposition got much smaller than that. The point I'm trying to make, for me, as you know, I also come from a background of political science. As far as I'm concerned, we are not having political parties. The institutional political parties are so weak, and this is both in government.
But do you know why they are weak?
Both in our ruling party and the opposition.
Even the ruling party is weak.
You cannot wish away the goodwill of the president, the founder of NRM, the one who has been here for all this time, who is the presidency. You are talking of the security aligning with him. Whereas we are losing in the east, NRM is getting more support in the east. Whereas we are losing in the north, NRM is getting more support in the north. UPC, Lango gave us most of UPC MPs, but President Museveni was the winner in Lango and not ambassador. In West Nile, the same story. So for me, I don't see opposition comes together. How do you call it? An whole alliance.
Okay, Dr. Wakida.
Just on convenience, but we don't have the structures of this. And I want to challenge even the opposition. In all these elections we have had, opposition has never put a candidate in every district and in every constituency. What does that mean in practical terms? That even if they garnered the votes at a presidential, they would collapse tomorrow because the party with the majority in parliament would not allow you.
Of course, we know
we really need to engage and go down.
Of course, we know some parties have headquarters, some don't have party headquarters. Dr. Okida, let's not talk about party headquarters. Let's talk about the dynamics ahead of the planned 2016 elections. What do you think is likely to happen with these kind of things? Will they agree on reform agenda? What is going to happen? Are they going to continue harassing them? What's going to happen?
You see, Edmund, the work of a politician, his job description is politics, and his place of work is the population. Now, if you give me a job and you don't give me where to sit, I will not be able to perform.
You talk about party headquarters?
Not really. I've said
in the community.
The role. What a politician does is politics, and where he works from
the people's communities.
Is the people in the community.
Yes.
Should you give them that work of a politician like Honorable Nsubuga, and you don't give them the place of work,
the access,
they will not be able to perform. And I think that's what has happened, and that's what is happening.
So you think they'll be denied? They can't even talk to
the opposition. One of the biggest accusations against opposition, which I've heard, is that they don't have an alternative agenda.
So they should not be allowed to speak to the people on radio.
Hold on. An alternative agenda is not written on a stone. That agenda must be described to the population, which is the place of work for a politician.
Yes.
And if you cannot allow me to describe that agenda, then I will not be able to have my agenda known.
Would a united opposition pose any challenge to President Museveni?
Yes.
You think they can topple him at the ballot poll?
And I think any politician knows that. I want to tell you that if you added the votes that all the opposition garnered in the election, they would be less than what Mr. Museveni got.
Yes.
But both in the politics and the economics, we have what we call the multiplier effect of votes.
Yes.
The multiplier effect is an effect that results from the unity that you portray during the campaign. And that produces a certain number of voters who will vote for that candidate.
You're using very complex language. You think if the opposition had united the last time, would be having somebody else in State House today?
I can't say they would have, but they would have performed better than they did. Let me put it that.
And you think they can change you think they can change the resident of the
politics, in my view,
if they came together. Let's hear that.
The politics, in my view, seems to have changed. The game seems to have changed. You see, in 2005, I had barely been here. There is something I witnessed. In the parliament, there was a movement of people who joined the reform agenda.
Yes.
They formed themselves into PAFO.
From PAFO.
And crossed and joined the reform agenda.
They became FDC.
They became FDC. That did not happen in 2011. In my view, I did not see that happen. And that could easily explain the minimum performance of Dr. Kamiza.
Well, paint that scenario. How would it play out if it would have to happen again?
Increasingly, we are watching to see. There are a lot of power brokers now that I imagine. There are people who are talking about Honorable the
Prime Minister.
Parliament. There is the Prime Minister.
The former Vice President.
The former Vice President. All those are power brokers. You can never. You think
the party could split soon?
Anything can happen.
NRM can split?
Anything can happen. Let me tell you, for people who are in opposition, especially the new opposition force like FDC, 100% of them came from
splintered NRM.
From NRM.
And you think
anything can happen, as we increasingly see it happening. Because most recent, I was reading and wondering what's happening. By the time you begin to suspect your own child of wanting to kill you, your own child, then you know you don't have any peace in yourself as a father.
Explain these matters, Mr.
What I'm saying, We've had the Prime
Is
Minister.
it becoming philosophical?
We have the Prime Minister.
Yes.
We have the President. We have
And
the
they're very good friends.
They are very good friends. But the level of trust increasingly seems to have reduced to the extent that they suspect a certain group of people, these ones who have been charged.
Yes.
They are NRM, by the way.
They don't trust each other anymore. The President and the Prime Minister.
The level of trust, the level of coherence that
been
has
eroded.
existed in 2006, in 2011, seems to be reducing.
You think they don't trust each other anymore? Just another man said, if I give my hand to another man to shake it, if I pull it back, I have to count my fingers because I don't trust in that man. Honorable Nsubuga, talk to us about these commitments you got from government. They didn't sign anywhere.
Yeah, they didn't sign them, but I would like to...
Too generous.
First of all, I would like to challenge the doctor by saying that opposition have no alternative agenda. If you...
No, he didn't say that. He said you've not had a chance to explain
We've
it.
not had a chance.
Yeah, exactly, we have not had a chance. I agree with you. Then I can even say here, categorically, that since 1996 elections, President Museveni has never ever won a genuine an election.
What do you mean?
In 1996, those who participated, you know the time when we had these buveras, the black polythene things. You go in where people were just putting as many ballot papers as they wished.
What do you mean?
That was an
those ballots in 1996?
Do you recall? Do you remember? Did you participate?
Well, I watched. I voted once for the first time in my life.
You enter booth. You are there alone, and people are carrying these ballot papers
in a polythene bag.
In a polythene bag, and they were just stamping them. Secondly, General Sejusa recently said, you remember, that all these ballot papers were being ticked in the military quarters and were being pushed into.
But you can't believe a man like that. He's speaking from London.
These are the people who have, since 1996, the military has been playing a role in our elections. In 2001,
providing
2006, no, not providing security. We have intelligence also. We know what is happening. They pre-tick these ballot papers and they just put them in. If you ask, I participated this year, last year in general elections in Kenya.
Yes.
The way results were being transmitted to the tally center, you can't compare it here with our system.
Even in Kenya, they had some problems. There was a time when they stopped.
But it was understandable. It was understandable. You could see it, and even when they went manually, they all accepted.
So people are now moving as one. You are united completely.
We have that statement.
Yes, Dr. Very briefly, let's hear from the listeners.
I want to read to counsel my friend here.
Give him wisdom. Give it to him.
Stop complaining that Museveni did not win an election because he won.
No, not genuinely.
Which one? The 1996 one?
2011, there was a win. The opposition was flawed. If they don't believe that, they should count the number of MPs they have in the House.
That's the point I was making.
Yeah, I rigged the election. You can never have more MPs. If it is rigged, what do you have MPs?
I want the opposition to cancel themselves and start from that point of view that we must do better.
All right.
Because in the first place, and I'll go back to Mukitale's, Honorable Mukitale said that the opposition could not fill the candidates.
In some places.
Let me tell you, those who framed the constitution in 2005 removed the potential candidates for any election in this country.
Which one is that?
One, if you were a civil servant,
A resignation. I don't support
you were a
that.
teacher, you were a doctor, you are not supposed to contest. And those are the respected people in the community.
And
if you are contesting on any NRM ticket and you've resigned your job,
you can get it back.
You can get back.
In my
but
father's house.
If you are contesting and you're on bloody opposition, the chances that you get back that job.
And
let's hear from the listener.
Take matters.
This is
him and I, who are in the 8th Parliament.
I want us to agree the election.
We passed a law to fund the
parties have
political
been
parties.
weak.
Okay. Well, so we
passed a law
The
to fund the
parties we should not have been weak.
All right.
And by the way, electioneering does not necessarily
Let's
mean,
hear from the listeners. Our number is 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. Dr. Amala?
Hello?
Yes, your name?
My name is Kester Robert, and I'm calling from Berlin. I'd like to respond to my brother who says that President Museveni has never won an election. President Museveni has won an election and is still a darling. This business of saying, by the way, is people in rural areas still using President Museveni. And our brothers in the opposition have only concentrated in urban areas. And I would like to assure you that our brothers in the opposition are very disorganized to an extent that when they lost him, he left this election recently. And a new party emerged out of FDC that is called FDP. That is a sign that it is going to spread.
All right.
The confusion you see in the media that President Museveni has misunderstanding with the Prime Minister, those things were short-lived. I'm very sure that the NRM is still solid.
All right.
And we shall continue winning an election.
Okay. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Okay. Let's hear the response to that. Mr. Nsubuga, you think, Honorable Nsubuga, you think the NRM is still strong? You only are in the towns.
The NRM, apparently, it can never be still strong, because even when you look at the statements that are being, I mean, the very good example are these NRM youths who are in prison.
Spectrum, hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, your name? Can you switch off your radio and then talk to us?
Whenever we go in there, we should always look at the elections at our own places where we come from, or where we do our elections. Usually, I see even some people who don't have much work to do, they will stay there from morning to the evening when they count the votes. And then in the end, we hear they are counting Kamuta, Besige, Kamuta. Where does the NRM sit? How does it sit? That will disturb me.
Okay. Yes, Honorable.
I was saying that really, the individual merit hangover is still with us.
Spectrum, hello?
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
My name is Owere.
Please go on and talk to us.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Edmond and the members in the studio. But I want to disagree with that gentleman who is saying that Museveni has been rigging election. Opposition, you know that even some constituencies, you have failed to fill the candidate. In my constituency, where I come from, in Mulanda, in Nabuyoga, you can look for anybody who is opposition. You can't even find a 3 or 4. Now, when you say that President Museveni, you know, some of you concentrate here in town, and when you see some people who just praise you and what, you have not gone deep in the villages. Actually, President Museveni is very popular with the local people.
Okay. Let's exhaust these callers. Spectrum, hello? Okay, I guess we come back to the studio.
Yeah, let me finish this. Let me finish.
Yes, go on.
You see, most people, including my colleagues here, are saying the opposition is not in the rural area. First of all, Kim and I were in the 8th Parliament. We passed a law that political parties should be funded by the state.
Yes.
And this law has never ever been respected.
How much money do you want?
No, I mean, we can come up with a formula.
That's an idea.
Yeah, we can come up with a formula. I can't say that DP we need so much. But the fact that the state has refused to fund political parties, and yet the state is using state resources for NRM. This is where we can never have level playing field. Yes. You see, they are using, you can see President Museveni calls these people to State House. They are using state resources. He's giving out billions of shillings using state resources. But the political parties on opposition cannot even afford to go to rural areas to support, to solicit for support.
Because the money is good. Honorable Mathias is agreeing that the problem is not at the Electoral Commission per se, downstream. The problem is right from up. The parties are so weak. We should work towards being parties which can meet the requirement, constitutional requirement of fielding enough candidates that would even give a number both at the district and the parliament, because if you lack that number, it would cause chaos in this country. You can imagine having a minority government if Ugandans were swayed to believe the message of just a presidential candidate who doesn't have people in more than 60% of the country. So that would be a crisis. But most importantly, until our farmers, our traders start identifying with the ideologies of our parties, we don't have parties. So it's heterogeneous. We are just there, and individuals are very strong. President Museveni is a very strong individual. His goodwill is what has kept him going.
So what happens tomorrow if he's gone?
Exactly. Now,
I think he's going to
that's why I go back to my starting point. For me, I think election per se is not what you should be pushing. We should push for a national dialogue, a national conference, constitutional amendments in those areas where we think, and the money politics, by the way, is one thing we must end. If we don't end the money politics as leaders, we are even going to make the matter more complicated. Now that there is this al-Shabaab, there is this drugs, there is oil people are coming in, we are going to risk criminals beginning to fund the elections, and with that we shall have another problem. So for me, I am more interested in reforms, but there's no doubt that President Museveni has always won the election because opposition hasn't been there anyway.
Dr. Waki.
Yes.
Talk with the figures.
I forgot to say, even some members of opposition are actually working with government. So how will they win an election?
How do they win? No, can you elaborate on that? Working how?
Edmund.
Yes, doctor.
You see, the concept of winning comes from the word free participation. The freedom to vote, the freedom to be voted in.
Choice.
And therefore you win. Now, if the opposition is putting that concept in that context, that they did not have the chance to win an election, they weren't given the freedom to ask people so that they are voted, then I understand that they lost because of that. Now, two things played in that politics. One is despondency.
Despondency, yes.
The other one,
lack of interest, loss of interest.
Yes, the other one is the application of financial capability to wrestle the support.
Financial violence politics.
Financial use of money. Let me put it that way.
Right.
Use of money.
Excessive use of money.
Even in America it was.
Let me ask you. If you manage to buy an election, you don't buy 20%.
What do you buy?
You will buy 12%. 12% of the voters can be influenced to vote you using money. Now, if you have 68 and you have earned another 12% as a result of money, then you can see where you are. The same, you want to calculate and see how much contribution was it.
The contribution of money?
The contribution of money to my win. So you subtract, and then you say, of those people who voted, how many of them?
How many did I buy?
How many did I buy? So you stop at that and say, oh, I spent this amount of money. Had I not spent this amount of money, I would have not gotten the 17%. That is one. Two, what that also means, once people become despondent, is that while for you will be increasing your number of people coming to vote you, the opposition, on the other hand, will be reducing. The people are saying, it's a waste of time.
It's about the margin.
They think it's a waste of time.
Now, those are things, when I see the opposition on the street, and I think that's what they're fighting for. But again, they shot themselves. I will repeat this. They shot themselves. The opposition, towards the elections, went and told the public, said, we won't contest as long as Kigon is there. Now, the NRM capitalized on that. They kept Kigon there, knowing that
they would not come.
Well, let me tell you what the public will think.
Yes.
That anyway, it has already been rigged. The Electoral Commission will rig on behalf of the NRM.
Yes.
You see that? And that's what they are fighting for. So, the NRM knew. Had the NRM, this is my own projection, had the NRM changed the electoral commission, even if they had put Janet Museveni, the turnout would have been different. The NRM was aware of that. Yes. In brand positioning, which I do most, there is the word called the promise of a product. Yes. The promise, if you make a promise and you say, this is the drink that quenches your thirst. When I take it, obey your thirst. I want to be able to feel that. Now, once you say that we will not contest in an election as long as Tigond is there, and then you go ahead and contest in that election, credibility. Let me tell you, the majority of people didn't turn up. The opposition voters most likely did not come to. So you think the State House occupant would have been different if the message? There is a lot of politics being played. I told you the biggest brand positioning element for NRM is not service delivery. It's not the hospitals. It's not the education. What is it? It's security. Then my brothers here play in the hands of the government. Can I just give one information? The Mathias has won an election. Let's conclude that. With a couple of security against him, a lot of money against him, and you are in parliament. So electoral commission cannot be blamed. The point I want to bring. No, this was a by-election. Yes, I'm concluding. You see, when the opposition goes on the street, but those things have changed. Stop saying the opposition, because we even have now civil society, even on radio stations. And that's why you see the police. The police is poured on the street, and everybody is saying, "Oh my God, these are people who have come to erode our security." And they will say, "You see, they have come to rob," which was brought in a basket by the fundamental. If you have the votes, you will win against money. You will win against deployment. Thank you very much. Our guest, Honorable NSBirahwa from Bulisa, Honorable Dr. Patrick Wakida from our Research World International, Honorable Mathias Nsubuga from the DP. Thank you for tuning in and being hosted Manchester.
Thank you for even.
Hey, Miss Namiaro, you're very welcome.